who have benefited from grant-based financial aid. Thank you for your time. We strongly encourage you over the next few weeks to devote more time to reconsidering the complete restoration of AccessUVA and all its promises. Thank you. And now I would like to introduce my colleague Heather Berg, a third year from Miami who is studying in the Batten School of Public Policy and is also involved with U.V's.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out here today. It's so great to see such a high turnout from so many people who are really invested in this issue. We can ramble off all these statistics to you about why it's important to maintain socioeconomic diversity and how we've increased our numbers, which are all incredibly important things. But the fact of the matter is, there are people behind these numbers, and there are some really powerful stories of friends of mine, myself personally, a lot of people who will be deeply affected by these policy changes. This wasn't just, a blind decision by the Board of Visitors. It has real effects on real people's lives. So we have some students here today who would like to share their stories with you. We really appreciate them being here today. I know that coming up and speaking in front of a crowd and really putting yourself out there is not easy. So we really appreciate it, and we appreciate you guys showing them your respect. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to our first speaker. We have Eden Zacharias with us, who is a third year currently studying African American Studies and Leadership and Public Policy in the Batten School. Eden is a student activist and political action chair of the Black Student Alliance, and without further ado, here she is.
August 3rd, 2013. The Board of Visitors meeting. Victoria H. Harker claims that the university's goal is to, quote, make a more effective use of the dollar and have the lowest impact on the number of students. John L. Now III, who also serves on the board, says, quote, this looks like the best business decision. It is more business than philosophical. August 3rd, 2013. So you see, we're not dealing with the philosophical, as it has been explicitly said. We are not dealing with whether this is ethical or pious or within good moral standing. In fact, we are not even dealing with something concerning or deserving too much time or thought. Too much thinking and reflecting and pondering on the implications of these students whose lives will be directly affected by this very decision. We are talking business. We are talking money. Make it fast, no thinking, just make the deal and let's move on. Let's maximize the dollar while affecting the least amount of students, the lowest on the totem pole of quantity, and arguably, as it has been made evident in this decision, quality. According to our president, quote, being a public university in the 21st century is no longer what it was in the 19th and 20th century. Patrick D. Hogan, quote, a lot of schools no longer give full grant packages, including Yale and MIT. And of course, those are both excellent schools. However, they are private, and this is not a private institution. This is a public institution. Let's look at our neighbor, the University of Richmond. See, we don't hear too much about that. We just hear about UNC's success, right? We don't hear about University of Richmond. They have a program that covers families making $40,000 or less a year for free room and board. And the fall of 2014, they're extending that program to students whose families make $60,000 or less a year. You see, this is an issue of priority. But of course, we're comparing ourselves to Harvard and Yale, so we're not looking to this model. The pool of AccessUVA students has been growing exponentially since its creation in 2014. It started out at 6.5, and today we stand at 8.9. Maybe we've been basing our conversations entirely on personal account and sentiment, which at this point have been considered illegitimate. So let's just talk a little bit about logic. If the pool of students has been growing at an exponential rate with every passing year, then just naturally, logically, when this program is dismantled, we will see a decrease in the number of students because the source of their being here, the means by which they can attend this university, will no longer exist. But of course, we are being told that this is a good thing. This is healthy for students to become more responsible, right? Because of course, if you're on public assistance, you wouldn't know a thing about responsibility. We are being told that there's a projected growth for this program, but that is just not the reality. You see, Richmond Magazine did an extensive report on the financial aid in the state of Virginia. And the cuts for AccessUVA, quote, will be phased in over 4 years, and by 2018, there will be a decrease in the institutional cost of the program by $6 million a year. This is more of a realistic projection. The fact of the matter is that when privatization is the goal, not everybody can come. Private means selective, it means requirements and exclusive and prestige. And ultimately, it means reputation. But the question is, at what cost? I was at the student council meeting last week, and Rector Martin describes the reputation of the university as its primary asset. If we have a large number of students depending on financial aid, then what kind of reputation are we attracting? It's not possible to uphold this reputation while providing for students on financial aid, and only one of these can be made a priority. Are we going to increase our reputation by privatizing the university, or are we going to focus on accessibility to the public commitment that we have? It's up to us to ensure that public means public. This is our school, this is our state, this is our country. Education is not a luxury for those who can merely afford it. It's a fundamental right that millions of people have died for. What are we about? Thank you.
Thank you, Eden. That was great. Next, we have a good friend of mine and somebody I'm very excited to bring up to this podium. Hawa Ahmed is a third year studying foreign affairs and Middle Eastern studies. As a child, Hawa came into the U.S. as a refugee from Chad with nothing but the clothes on her back and would not be here without the funds from AccessUVA. Come hear more from Hawa.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for coming out today. I can't stress how important it is that we are all here. My name is Hawa, and I'm a third year from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. My classmates and I are here today to address the recent financial aid cuts of UVA's coveted AccessUVA program. We are not here in protest, and this is nearly a rally. We are simply here to tell you stories. My story began in 1993 when I was born in a refugee camp on the Chad-Niger border. My family was poor and diseased and nearly hopeless. Until one day, a charity called Catholic Charities from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, brought us to the United States. We arrived in Pennsylvania with only the clothes on our backs and a copy of the Quran, the Muslim religious book. W. Du Bois once said, "To be a poor man is difficult, but to be a poor man in a land of wealth is the hardest of all hardships." Growing up in Lancaster, I'm not going to lie and say that there were things that I wanted that I could not have. All of my classmates had, the nicest UGG boots and North Face jackets, while my family and I were getting by with food stamps and eviction notices. I had very little hope for going to college. In fact, I just assumed that I wasn't going. I applied for a few scholarships, and on December 1st, 2010, at exactly 5:23 p.m., my whole world changed. UVA Dean of Admissions, Greg Roberts, called me and told me that I was going to UVA on a full grant scholarship. I cried, I laughed a little bit because I didn't think it was real, and I cried some more. Not only was I going to college, but I was going to graduate debt-free. I often tell people that UVA was my real-life fairy tale, my happy ending. And one of my best friends, Charlie Tyson, said, "Hawa, UVA isn't your happy ending, it's your happy beginning. You're going to be able to graduate here and have a life that you never knew, that your parents never knew, and your children are going to have a life eons better than the one you grew up in." Women in Chad don't really have a place in society. My own mother didn't complete school past 8th grade. Oftentimes, they are taken out of school at age 15 and forced to marry someone. UVA opened a door of possibilities that never would have happened. Over the summer, I was able to ride my bike across the country in the name of affordable housing. Every day, I got up at 4:30, pedaled about 80 miles in the name of those suffering from poverty and eviction notices. UVA should invest in their low-income students because we will put the money back to the places that we came from. A life of poverty and eviction notices was one I knew all too well, and for 80 days and 4,256 miles, I was able to do it in the name of others. Going to college allowed me to invest in those who lived the same life that I did. Graduating here with a politics degree, my dream would be to help refugees and those just like myself and help them find their happy ending. That's why the recent AccessUVA cuts are a problem. Many poor students come from families who are already drowning in debt, and to graduate with nearly $30,000 in loans would simply be detrimental. I care, and today you all should too. The other day I was running down Alderman Road and couldn't help but notice the new fancy dorms that are being put up. It is no secret that the class sizes at UVA are getting bigger. Recent AccessUVA cuts will create more homogeneous classes, which will in turn lead to a more homogeneous UVA. My friends, this is a step in the wrong direction. We need a diverse student body of mixed income students so we will have the opportunity to learn from each other, live together, grow together, and love one another. One of my best friends and roommate, when my father and I went to her house, we walked around and taking pictures because we had never seen a house that big. We will be taking steps backwards in our pursuit of a more diverse UVA. 2 summers ago, I was working as an orientation leader at UVA and attended many of the rallies for the ousting of President Teresa Sullivan. Helen Dragus used the term strategic dynamism, which I still don't know what that means, but we as AccessUVA students are the strategic dynamism of the future. Virginia, in terms of wealth per capita, UVA is the wealthiest public school in the nation. Sadly, we are last in terms of diversity. So I care. All the speakers today care, and you should too. Now I will shamelessly quote one of my favorite shows, Grey's Anatomy. In the first season, Meredith Grey is standing in an elevator with tears in her eyes, and she says to Mr. McCreamy, "Pick me, choose me, love me." For visitors, pick me, choose me, and love me.